So welcome to the Old National Treasury Management BankConnect Plus web training. My name is Jeff Threlkeld, and I'm an implementation specialist for Old National Bank. The features we will cover today include account transfers, information reporting, stat payments and inquiries, our check positive pay, ACH origination, wire transfers, alerts, and also adding additional users. You're more than welcome to leave the WebEx once the feature you are interested in has been covered. Before I get started, I'd like to mention that you'll need to enable View Screen Share in Cisco Meeting by clicking on the computer icon in the upper right-hand corner of the screen and selecting View Screen Share. View Screen Share prevents participants from sharing audio and video through Cisco Meeting during the WebEx with all participants. Also, the chat feature will not be utilized during this training. And then at the end of training, please email any training-related questions to bcpquestions@oldnational.com. Thank you. I will go ahead and get started. The screen that you see on here is our BankConnect customer login website. When you first initially go to this page, you're probably going to get a prompt from Trusteer. It's going to say Trusteer Endpoint Encryption. What that is, that's our backend security for the BankConnect system. Once you download that, you'll be able to log into BankConnect. So on this page on the left-hand side, you'll see organization ID, user ID, and password. Each company will have a unique organization ID, and each user will have their own user ID along with a temporary password the first time they log in. So the first time you log in, it's going to take you through a few steps. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to log into here. Right now, it took me to the BankConnect home screen. What it normally takes you through the first time that you log in is going to have you enter a phone number. It's going to give you an option to enter actually 4 different phone numbers, but you only have to enter one number there. What that number is for, say, if you don't get your security questions correct when you answer them, it's a number it can challenge you at. Now, it's going to ask you some security questions below that. The first few times you log in from a computer, it's going to ask you those questions just until it gets to know that computer, and then it'll go away. Say if you do frequently delete cookies, yes, it will keep on asking you those. From there, it will take you to change your own password, and then it's going to bring you to the Welcome to BankConnect homepage. On the BankConnect homepage, you're going to see some bank messages here. Bank messages will give you any information, say on upcoming holidays, along with maybe any maintenances that are going to be occurring within BankConnect. Now, maintenances typically happen overnight, so most likely when you're not going to be logging into BankConnect. Also on here, you can access our Treasury Management Information Center page from here, or you can also access it from the Treasury Management Information Center up top as well. If you click on this page, it takes you to our Information Center, and down on the right-hand side, you're going to see some resource boxes in the gray. So if you ever have any questions on BankConnect, maybe you want to listen to a tutorial, there are different options here as well. Also on this home page, you're going to see a box that says System Notices. System Notices is mainly for our positive pay feature, and I'll kind of go over more of that in detail here in a little bit when I cover the positive pay. Then you're also going to see deposit accounts here as well. Now, the deposit accounts are all real time, so as transactions occur throughout the day, your available balance will update. So available balance is current, and then opening ledger is what you guys open, or whatever opening was for that beginning of that day. So as you can see, the accounts are actually hyperlinked to where you can click on them. So say if you wanted to view account activity, all you would need to do is click on the account. When you click on that account, it's going to pop up 2 boxes right now. If there's transactions occurring today, there would be 3 boxes as well. So you're going to see our criteria box with account number, inquiry type, from posting date, and then you're going to see the account details. Now, the account details is very similar to what you see on that first screen. It also gives a few other options, account opening date. But say if you wanted to see transactions that have occurred on this account, you can go back here. I'm just going to go up to the beginning of the month, and I'm going to hit View Results. When you hit View Results, it's going to display any transactions that have happened since April 2nd on here. Also, say if you had a check, I'm going to get to this in just 1 second, it will allow you to view an image of that check. So we can go back up to 13 months in this system. Now, it's going to be 13 months from when you guys start using the BankConnect system. So say if I wanted to go back to July of 2017 when we had some checks on here, I could either just type July, or I could find the date on the calendar. But when also you're searching, note that you have to go 90 days at a time. So I'd have to search July through either October 1st or September. So I'm just going to type in September 1st. That's 17. And then once you have that, all you need to do is just hit View Results. When I hit View Results on here, it gives me results 1 of 25. And if I scroll down here, I'm also going to see some checks. So you'll notice on 7/18 there was a check for 101, and there's a little image box to the right-hand side. If I just click that image box, it's going to pop up a check here. So you can see the check for your records, any check that you've written that has cleared your account. It will show front and back. If you just click that bottom part, it shows the back of the check, and then we can close out of here. And then also on the 18th, you're going to notice the customer deposit. So the customer deposit is the same way, except when you click on this image right here, it's going to show you just an image of that deposit ticket. So there is a way that you can actually view what was inside that deposit as well. So if I click out of here, I go up top. So we know that was on the 18th of July. If I go up to our inquiry type, now if I drop down the inquiry type, you're going to see some different options: paid checks, deposit tickets, stop payments, check status, and select inquiry. So if I wanted to view a deposit, I could go deposit tickets. It's going to ask me from posting date to posting date. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in that we know it's July 18th that deposit was on, and I just hit View Results. It's going to pull up everything on the 18th only. So if you want to search multiple days, you're just going to have to type in the from posting date and the end posting date there. Otherwise, it's going to pull up that same day. So you're going to see here the $10 for that deposit. The image available on this side is going to be that deposit ticket. So if you wanted to see what was actually inside that deposit, there's a sequence number right here that you can click on. And when you click on that sequence number, it's going to show you the different items that were inside that deposit and an image available to the right-hand side. So when you click on that image, it'll pull up, and you'll see that there was a check deposit in there. So you can have that for your records, and if you need to print that off. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the home screen. Now, a few other things with the home screen. Say if you needed to easily print something that was within BankConnect on this screen. On the right-hand side, you're going to notice the print option, which you can print anything off of the screens. This will be available on any screen that you go to. And also the help option. Now, if you click on the help option, it will just give you kind of an overview of that page it's on. So if you had any questions on exactly maybe what system notices meant, bank messages, secure messages, you can find any additional information on this page. Okay. I'm going to go ahead, and you'll notice on this left-hand side there are some different options: log off, home, balances. I'm going to go through each one of these today. Anytime that you log out of the BankConnect system, though, you always want to make sure you hit this log off button. Now, you can hit the red X, that's perfectly fine, but just know the red X takes about 10 minutes to go inactive, to compare if you hit that log off, you're logged off right away. So we're going to go ahead and go down the menu. We're going to go to balances. So what the balances option is, not everyone might not have this option. It's if you wanted to see your current balances. It's kind of a reiteration of that first page. So if I were to select my account and I just hit View Balances, it's going to show me my available ledger for now. It's also going to show me my opening ledger for the day and all that other information that's available on the first page as well. It's just another way for you to view the account balances. Another option we have is transfers. So when we go to the transfers feature, it brings us to a single transfer, and then also right next to it you're going to see multiple transfers and templates. So under single transfer, what you do is you have your from account and then you'll have your to account. So if I go ahead and I just select two of my accounts I want to make a transfer to, and I enter an amount. Now, you'll see underneath that there's a frequency option. The frequency option defaults to once right now, but if you drop that down, you could actually set this up for a weekly transfer, monthly, maybe every 3 months, or there's even a one-time on. So if we select that one time on, we'd enter that transfer date that you want to select it on, and it will transfer on the date that you select. The comments section is optional. If you want to put any comments along with that transfer, you can view that comments when you go to your transfer history. And now the transfer history is up top, and that will give you any transfers that you've done that you search for. It will give you that transfer and maybe any comments that you've entered along with that. Also on this page, say if you want to save this transfer as a template, say if you do this transfer often, you could do that as well. So if I go ahead and I say this is a multi-entry template, it would transfer over here to my multiple transfers and templates after I do the transfer. So if I go ahead and I click on this, any ones that I had set up as a template would appear on this page along with the nickname. It would have that from the from account to account. It would have the original amount, and then it would have today as the effective date. Now you just change the amount and you would change the effective date as well on here. Say if you were just doing multiple transfers at once and you don't want to do a single transfer, you could always do it on this page as well. What you do is you just select your accounts, you can hit add another row and keep selecting. And then when you're ready to transfer those, all you need to do is put a check mark next to each of those, and then you go ahead and continue to do your transfers. Also on this page, you'll see up top, you'll see scheduled items. So say if you maybe have something scheduled out there for next week, you wanted to go ahead and view that, or anything that you have scheduled out there, you can search for those. All you need to do is you can select your accounts that you're transferring from to, or you could put a start and end date in there as well and search that way. That way it pulls up any transfers. So if you need to make an edit to that transfer, you could do that here. And then we also kind of covered transfer history. Transfer history will just show you any transfers that have occurred within BankConnect. You can search for those. It's also going to show some of the transfers down here that you've previously made. Continuing down the left-hand side, we're going to go to reporting. Now, under reporting, you're going to have some different reports here. They're all going to be, these are all prior day reports on the screen. You're going to see account statement, cleared check report, combined report, and then loan statement report as well. Now, these reports, so account statement, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show this one to you. It's going to be any prior day information from here. Now, these reports, you can go back up to the 90 days on these. So the from date, it's always going to default to yesterday's date. So we can go ahead, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose from the beginning of the month, because you can choose multiple days as long as the to date is the prior day, a prior day from today. So the to account on here, if you just select that and then you select your accounts that you want to pull up, I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to select both of these, and we're going to hit display. So when I display this information, it's going to come up in a report format. Up at the top, you're going to see a statement for 4/2 to 4/16. On here, it's going to show opening ledger balance, closing ledger balance from those times, and it's going to show you any credits along with debits that have occurred within that time period. Now, I selected two different accounts. Now, you're only seeing that first account I selected up here. Instead of going back out and selecting that other account, there's an option down at the bottom that says Next. So if I just go ahead and I hit Next, it's going to pull up that second report for that other account and give you the same exact information for those dates. So if you wanted to print this off for your records, down at the bottom there is a print feature as well. So you can print that off if you need to. Go ahead and close out of this one. Okay. And then you also see the three other reports, the checks cleared. That will give you any checks that have cleared your account within the dates you are searching. Combined report, that will be a balance summary and transaction. And then loan statement will be if you have a loan on your account, it will give you a statement for the day you're searching. But you can, like I said, you can search multiple days for any of these. Up top, there's one called transaction search. It's all previous day information. You can choose your transaction type here. Say if you're searching for maybe something in particular, it could be if you know it's a credit, but you're not sure exactly what day it happened, you could search an amount. If you're searching for a specific check, there's also a serial number box. but the only one that's required on this page is transaction type, so you just have to make sure you select that before you actually search for a specific transaction. Now, some of you might have the BAI2 export option. Now, this is all previous day information. So what you would want to do is, in order to export this from your BankConnect, all you need to do is select the date you want to export that from. We'd go ahead and we'd select our account. We'd hit export information. And now you're going to get a little message. It's going to say export was started for BA2 report. Please press the refresh button to view the results. So all we have to do is our F5 key refreshes the screen for BankConnect, or you can hit the refresh up top. And it's going to say export file created. Click here to download or view. So you know that file was created successfully. So all we do is click on this. And then down at the bottom it's going to say, do you want to open up? And if I just hit open, it's going to come up in a little Word document. You can also save it to if you need to in Excel or any format you need to. Also up top you're going to see an option that says special reports. Now you're going to see NOC, NOR letters here. Now this has to do with ACH, so this is our notification of change or return. So if you do have the ACH product, what this is say if you get an ACH that may be returned for insufficient funds or account closed, you're going to get a report back through the BankConnect system. Now you do get in the mail as well, but it just takes a few days longer compared to here. So if you have a report available, that NOC and OR letters will be hyperlinked blue. You'll be able to have, you'll also have under the count date and time field, you'll have a little drop-down box if you have multiple reports. Otherwise, there will just be one date and time there. You can click on the NOC and OR letters, and it will display a report for you. On that report, it will give you exactly who within that ACH batch returned, and it will give you a reason code Y on there as well. Going on, down the left-hand side, you're also going to see stop payments and inquiries. So when you click on the stop payments and inquiries, it brings you to a view all activity page. View all activity page is, if you select your account number, it's another way for you to search maybe for a paid check, a deposit ticket, or a stop payments, also on here as well. So if I just wanted to view a paid check, I could search for a serial number, or I could search from posting date to a posting date. It's going to show all the checks that were paid. It's just kind of another way for you to view activity on your account as well. Also on this page up top, you're going to notice stop payments. Now if I go to stop payments, it's going to bring down a box that says single stop or range stop. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to click on the single stop here. It's going to bring up a criteria box, and it's going to have me select my account that I want to do a stop payment on. So if you want to do a stop payment within the BankConnect system, the two required fields are the serial number, which is the check number, and then also the amount field. You'll also see payee and issue date. These are not required fields, but they are helpful information. And then down here under action, you're going to see where you can place your stop, and then it's going to have you do a reason code. Now, if you try to do a reason code before you have that, it's not going to let you select that. So you always have to select your action before a reason. But once you place a stop payment, before you're ready to place a stop payment, you always want to hit this check status button. What the check status does, it goes through our back end of the system to check and make sure that check has not cleared. You can do that for your records, make sure, and then once you're ready to go ahead and then you'll submit that. Once you submit that, it will just go through an approval process. It just takes just a few moments, and then it will be approved. Then you'll be able to monitor that and see that your stop payment was approved. But say once you place a stop, when you place a stop, you'll also get a stop ID that's generated here. If you also drop down action, you're going to see a cancel stop. The cancel stop is, so say if you place a stop and the stop payment and you realize, oh hey, this check is actually found, you want to go ahead and cancel that stop, you can come in here and do that. Once you cancel the stop ID field comes up to where you can put numbers in there. So you can enter that stop ID number that you received when you placed that stop as well. You'll also notice the other feature was range stop up here. So range stop is very similar to that single stop, except for you're kind of searching for a range of checks. You don't maybe know exactly what check number it is, so you could enter in here 101 to maybe 105, but the amount is the required field. So it'll look for that amount through those check numbers that you enter there as well. And then there's also the monitor stop payment. Under the monitor stop payment, you can search for any stop payments that you've done in the past. If you're looking for a particular one to see if you placed a stop payment on, you can search through certain dates. You can search a serial number as well. Moving on, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go down to our positive pay feature. Now this is for our check positive pay. So this brings you to a View Exceptions page. On the View Exceptions page, this is where each day, if you have the positive pay feature, each night you're going to, or whenever you have checks to upload, you're going to upload checks through our system. Now, when you upload the checks, there's two different options you can do. You can upload a file, or you can enter these checks manually as well. So, say if I wanted to enter these checks manually, up here under Issue Maintenance, there's a place where you can add issues and voids. So from here, you can select your account number. Now you're going to notice here that there are two different accounts ending in 541. This is because there's an account that's tied to Old National's routing number and an account that's tied to Anchor Bank's routing number. While you're still using the Anchor Bank checks, you want to make sure you select the one that has the Anchor Bank routing number. Now you might ask that you don't see the routing number on this page. There's an easy way you can do that. Usually it's going to be the second one, but if you hit lookup right here and then just hit search accounts, you're going to see right here the account number along with the Anchor Bank routing number. And you can just select that account, and then it's going to have that selected for you. So you'll know from there, if you drop down that, it's going to be highlighted on that second one. So anytime you go forward entering, you can always choose that second one. It's going to be tied to the Anchor Bank routing number. But when you start using the Old National checks, you want to make sure that you enter it with the Old National routing number, and it'll be that first one. But say if I wanted to go ahead and I just wanted to enter one manually, all I need to do is enter the serial number of that check. I'll just enter an amount, and then I'll just choose an issue date that I issued that check on, and then payee. So under action, you're also going to notice that it says it defaults to issue, but if you drop it down and there's also a void option. So any check that you maybe void in the office and you shred, you still want to enter that in our system. That way Positive Pay can watch out for it as well. But once you have that information entered, all you need to do is hit submit issue/voids, and now that's been submitted. You'll see that issue and voided items must be approved. So this is a two-step process. After you issue, you'll have to approve it. Up top, you'll see where it says approvals, and then you're going to see exceptions or issues. So we just did an issue, and then underneath here, you're going to see that item that we entered. So from here, what you'd want to do is you want to drop down this action menu and either select approve or disapprove when you're ready to submit that. So if all the information is correct, you're going to want to hit that approve and hit submit. Since this is just a test, I'm going to disapprove this today. So once I hit that, I'm going to hit submit on here. Okay. And then we're going to go back up to where I can show you how to import a file. So under where you go up top, you see where it says import, and you'd want to select run import. So this means we want to run our import for the file. And if we drop down the format name, now you're going to see two different options here. You're going to see ABMN Positive Pay. So that's going to be for the Anchor Bank Positive Pay. So this coincides with the Anchor Bank routing number on this. So we would want to go ahead and select the Anchor Bank Positive Pay file format, and then we would want to select our file. So you just browse for your file. So when I found my file, I just select it, open, and then I'm going to hit submit on here. Once I hit submit, it says import successfully started, and you can monitor that and see if it was successful with the view import report. So if you go back up to import, hit view import report, it's going to bring you to where you can search for the day. Now it's always going to default today's date, and you import the file today. So all you're going to do is just hit search, and you're going to see that the file was successful. Now it will let you know if the file has failed. So you're most likely always going to see successful, failed. You could also see a status of partially successful. If you're ever having issues importing a file, then don't hesitate to contact us, especially calling to our 800 number up here. We can take a look at that file and help you get it imported successfully. So now that you see it successful, you just have to go in and approve it. So all you do is go back up to approvals and issues like how we did before, and now you're going to see the file out here. So say you see the file name right here. If you were to click on that file name, it's going to take you inside that file. It's going to show you each check that you have listed in there, payee, and give you all that information as well. So once we have that, we can go ahead and submit it. I don't want to actually approve this one right now, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select the disapprove. Okay. So now that we have these files uploaded, you're going to start getting exceptions, and if something comes through that does not match, and that's where we talked about under the exceptions. So anytime that you go to positive pay, you're going to see exceptions here if they exist. Now you're going to see on our system no exceptions exist today, so if you see that message, you know you're good for that day. You probably want to log in daily to always check this. So positive pay, you have some cutoff times. So the cutoff times to upload a file is going to be 4:30 Central Time. That's until the end of day for it to start checking that day for those checks that cleared that night, and it will show up on the exceptions list. Also, you have, say if you do have exceptions, you have until 11 a.m. Central Time to decision those exceptions the next day. Also, with positive pay, you can do the alerts feature to get a notification for the positive pay. That way you get alerts to your email as well. And then also, your guys' system is return to default. So if you do not decision those exceptions, they will automatically return instead of automatically pay. All right. That is everything with our positive pay feature. If you do have a custom import format, your rep was most likely going to let you know on that. So when you're actually importing a file, you might not be selecting the ABNM positive pay. The rep should let you know exactly which one you're going to be selecting if we created a custom format for you. Okay. Next, we're going to go into our ACH payments. So whenever you click on the ACH payments, it's going to bring you to our database list. What our database list is out here is any customers that you are paying either will have their own database or they'll be housed within the same database. Depending maybe on the time of the month you're paying them, say maybe if you have someone that, several customers you withdraw on the first of the month, you could actually have them within the same database, or you can have separate databases for each customer. I'm going to take you through a few different examples on the ACH database, and we're going to do some batches. So on here you'll see test and test one. You're going to see that both of these are company payroll. So these are your different accounts that you'll have to choose from to do ACHs out of. Then you're going to see your application. So you'll see this one as consumer debits, and then this database is payroll. So these are all payroll transactions. And then you're going to see generate repetitive. So this has to do with a reoccurring batch, and the status is active and frequency none. And I'll kind of get into those here in just a few moments. So say if I want to go ahead and I want to start creating a new batch and to send out payroll. I'd have to go ahead and I'd create my database. And you're going to see company name here. So if you have multiple companies you want to pay from, you just select your different account from here. You'll see I have two different accounts I can choose from. And then it's going to go to my application. Now it goes in alphabetical order, so it might always default to customer consumer debits. But if I want to change it to payroll, drop that down, select payroll, and then I'm going to name my database. Just for testing purposes, I'm just going to name it test2. And then you're going to see auto-generate and auto-release. I'm going to get to these in just a moment. These have to do with reoccurring transactions. And the for effective dates falling on non-business days, select and default frequency, those have to do with reoccurring as well. So if you're doing this database as just a one-time or not really a one-time, but say if you're using it for today and then you use it again in a month and need to edit the amount, I suggest making that as kind of a one-off database. So all we do is just hit save down here, and it brings me to my database summary. Under the database summary, this is where you would want to go ahead and enter that, since it's payroll, we would want to enter that employee's information here. Now there's a couple ways you can do that. You could import a file, or you can enter this manually. And I'm going to show you importing a file here in just a few moments. So if I just want to enter that employee's information manually, all I'm going to do is hit this add down here. And it's going to take me inside the database detail where I can fill in that employee's information. So it's going to ask me for employee name. I'm just going to go ahead and fill in Joe Smith here. And then you're going to see employee ID as the next field over. Now, employee ID is an optional field. Say if you wanted to fill, say if you had it can be alphanumeric. If you had an identification number for that employee, you can put that in there. Since I don't have an ID number, I'm going to leave that blank. And then it's going to ask me for a net pay amount. And then employee bank ID, that's going to be their routing number. So I'm going to go ahead and just use Old National's routing number in here. And then it's going to ask me for the employee's bank account number. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill in 5 ones. And then account type, it's always going to default to checking, but you do have the option of savings or loan here as well. Down below that, you're going to see where it says start date. Now, start date is something you typically want to leave blank. The only time you're really going to be filling in start date is, say, if maybe you have an employee that's starting in about a month. You already have their direct deposit information, and you want to go ahead and put it in your file. But you don't want to pay them the next time everyone's getting paid. You could put a start date out here of maybe May 17th the next time they're getting paid. And then when you create that, the next time to be paid on May 17th, it will pay them as well. We're going to go ahead and we're just going to leave it blank. Send pre-note, this is if you want to send a 0 test to their account. So if you want to send a pre-note, all you do is you just put a check mark next to here, and when you send out a batch, it's going to send out a 0 test to their account. One thing with pre-notes, though, is you only get notification back if something was incorrect on the account. So you're going to see that in your NOC and OR letters under that special reports I showed you a little bit earlier. And then you're also going to see an option here for hold payments. Now, hold payment, what this is say if you have a database of several employees, maybe Joe Smith's not getting paid this time. One thing you could do is you could select the hold payment. When you save it, to create a batch, it's going to pay everyone else within that database but Joe Smith, so it's going to hold his payment back. Another option you have instead of hold payment is you could zero out their amount, and then it would pay everyone else except for Joe Smith because his amount's going to be 0, so nothing will go out. We're going to go ahead and we're going to leave that at $1, and I'm just going to go ahead and hit save. So once I save that information, I have my database created and I have my employee inside of there. I'm going to go back up to my ACH, and now I see my test 1, and test 2. So I created the test 2. So say if I send a payroll today, in 2 weeks, Joe Smith's getting paid again, but we need to, and you want to use the same database, you can do that. And you just want to change the amount, so all I do is click on test 2. You'll see Joe Smith here, all of his information's with inside there. If you want to see his information, just click on his name, it'll take you inside that database detail. So if you ever need to change account number or routing number, if they switch banks, you could do that easily as well. But if I want to change his amount, I just go make sure I'm on that database summary. I go ahead and I enter that amount, and then I go ahead and I hit save. Now that amount's been updated. So the next time he gets paid, it will be updated for that amount, and I can go ahead and create a batch. So now I've got everything created. Now the last step is to actually create that and send out that batch. So if I just check mark next to my test 2, I hit this create batch down at the bottom, this will initiate my batch for payroll. For effective date, it's always going to default to the next business day. Now you can choose to do this up to 30 days out. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to leave on the next business day. In the transaction options, there's an all or there's a pre-notes only. You always typically want to leave it on all unless you have a batch of just pre-notes. That's when you want to select only the pre-notes. So since it's on all, we're going to go ahead and we're going to press OK. And then we're going to get a notification right on our batch list. The system's creating batches for test 2, and it's going to ask us to refresh this batch list. So you already see one out here. This is one that was created earlier today, and it's just at an entered status. Okay, so now once I refresh my page, you're going to see both of those out here. They're both at an entered status, and they're just waiting to be released. So when you are ready to release these, all you have to do is everyone receives a token in the mail. With that token, or you're going to be receiving those tokens in the mail as well, you might not have yet, but with those tokens you have a 4-digit PIN code. They look like a little calculator, so all you do is enter the PIN code with that in that token, and it's going to give you a 6-digit PIN code. So once you get that 6-digit PIN code, you can hit your release option, and it's going to ask you for a passcode, and that's where you're going to enter that 6-digit code. Once you enter that 6-digit code, all you do is just press OK. And from there, it's going to go from an entered status to a release status. Now, when it's at a release status, what it's being waiting to be due is waiting to be picked up. We have twice a day that our batches are picked up, and that is going to be 11 and 6:20 Central Time. So once a batch has been picked up, it goes from a release status to a submitted status instead. Once it's at a submitted status, you know it's gone out. But while it's at a release status, say if you realize, oh hey, I accidentally paid Joe Smith the incorrect amount, I need to go ahead and edit this. One easy thing you could do is just check, say if it's at a release status, if you check mark this, hit unrelease, it's going to go back to an entered status. Now if you needed to update his amount, you'd want to delete this batch out of here, go back out to the database, make any edits you need to, and then create that new batch. So right now we have this other batch out here in an entered status. This will remain out here on the batch list until it is deleted. If it's at a submitted status, it will fall off after 90 days on this page. So all of these will stay out here for those 90 days. Also, when a batch is either an entered status or a submitted status, you have an option as well for a batch report with each of those transactions. So say if I wanted to view a batch report and see exactly what was in that list that I sent out, all you do is check mark next to here, hit batch report, and then you'll see sort by ID or sort by name. Sort by ID, that's if you enter an employee ID in there, or sort by name is, say, by employee name. Since I only had, these are all test accounts, so I don't believe I had employee ID in there, so if I hit display, it's going to show in alphabetical order by name. So you're going to see test 1 through test 9. These are all going to be credits going out, and then it's going to debit my offset of my payroll account. So, like I said, you have access to these reports 90 days before they do fall off our system. Say if you do need a report further back than that, you can always call into our support, and we can look in getting that information for you as well. One thing I forgot to mention, on this batch list, say if it's at a submitted status and you needed to do a reversal, still, you can try to do a reversal within the first 5 business days. It either has to be, say if you had several employees within that database and Joe Smith got paid, your total amount's 1,000, Joe Smith got paid 100. Now you'd have to either reverse Joe Smith's full 100 or nothing on there. We can't just reverse just a partial amount. So within the first 5 business days, we can attempt to do a reversal for you. Also with the batch list is, say you guys are each going to have a limit that's assigned to you, a daily limit that you can release. So Say if you happen to go over that limit, you're going to get a notification that says exceeds daily limit. If you need to do a temporary increase, you can always call into our business support line and they can do a temporary increase for you. Or we can always look into eventually getting a permanent increase for you as well. Okay? I'm going to go over a few other things with the ACH database. So say if you wanted to import a file, I already have one created out here, test one. So if I were to click on my test one, there's going to be nothing inside this database. So if I have a file ready, all I need to do is put a check mark next to my database I want to import that file into, select import, and then import format. Now, a lot of these are going to be Nacha files. So the format I'm importing is a Nacha payroll file. So you'll see this one down here is a Nacha payroll. So I'm going to select that. Local file to import, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to browse for my file. So I'm going to import this file here. And when I open that, just press OK. And it's going to start the import process. So up top, you're going to see data import was successfully started for the file. And then we can go ahead and refresh this. Once you refresh the page, it's going to give you a message up top saying it was successful. So you're going to see test one was successful here. And now if I were to click inside my database, it's going to show me all of my employees that I imported from the file. So you'll see test one, test three. Say if you import a file to where you have your offset in there as well, you can easily delete that. I'm going to give you an example of that. So if I go back to my test one, I can see it's consumer debits. There's no inside of here. I go to import a file. I'm going to leave it at consumer debits Nacha. And if I browse, I'm going to go ahead and import my file too. So once I import that file, you're going to see in here test one, test two, test three, test four. Now test four would be considered my offset that's debiting my company. So if you import a file that way, it's going to, instead of a credit, it's still going to show as a debit. So it's adding up these three to equal that one. So one thing you can do is if you had an offset in there, you could easily just delete it from right here. So within the file itself, you're going to see, so if you have a standard Nacha file on here, if I open this up, you're going to see the 627. Now that is usually typically the offset for the company. So instead of deleting it out of the Nacha file itself, you can always just easily delete it from the BankConnect system. Also up here, you're going to notice if you have the Anchor Bank Nacha and you have Anchor Bank listed up here, it's not going to affect anything. As you can see, we have a different bank listed in this. So if it says Anchor Bank up top, it's not going to affect when you're importing either. So once you have that deleted, you can go ahead and create your batch, select the date you want it to go out on, and when you F5 or when you refresh your screen, it's going to show that batch out here. You show your total credits and debits, and then you just go ahead and do the typical process of check marking next to it, hitting a release, getting your token, getting that 6-digit code. Once you hit that 6-digit code, it's going to go to a release status on there. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete this one out of here. And then back under ACH payments, say if you wanted to set up a reoccurring database, you could do that as well. With the reoccurring database, say if you maybe had someone that you, or a couple people that you withdrew from their account on the first of each month, and it's always going to be the same amount, you could set that up. So what you do is you create your database, you select your account, select your application. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do vendor payments for this one. And then you name our database. So I'm going to go ahead and name this test 4. And then you're going to see auto-generate, auto-release here. What auto-generate, auto-release are for is so this will automatically generate the batch and automatically release it. So you can have auto-generate selected without auto-release, but it can't be the opposite way. So if you selected auto-release, it's automatically going to select auto-generate as well. So the for effective dates falling on non-business day select, what this is going to cover is, say if you have a recurring transaction that's set for the first of every single month. In May, the first falls on a Saturday. Now, do you want to set it up to, say if it falls on a holiday or a non-business day, do you want to withdraw the previous business day? Say if it was a Saturday, would it withdraw that Friday? Or would you want to withdraw on the next business day possible? So that's what you have to select here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to leave on the next business day. And the last option is that default frequency. So under default frequency, you're going to see none, daily, weekly, or monthly. So you have these different options. Under weekly, say if you did it bi-weekly, you could do weekly every 2 weeks on Friday. And then every 2 weeks on Friday, it's going to generate that transaction. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to select monthly. I'm going to do it once every, so you have the option, same option under monthly as well. And I'm just going to do every 1 month on the 5th of the month. And I'm going to go ahead and select done. You also have the option, say, as the last day of the month. So if you always do the last day of the month and, you know, one month has 31, the other has 30, you always just make sure it's the last day instead. So we'll go ahead and we'll hit done on here. And then you'll see our default frequency was monthly. We have the auto-generate, auto-release selected, so we can go ahead and save. So now we can go ahead and we can create our person in here as well, our vendor. So I'm just going to go ahead and use Joe Smith again. And then also with vendor payments, you'll notice there's an extra box here that says additional payment information. So this might not be what you want to use exactly on reoccurring if you're going to be manipulating the additional payment information, but you can include up to 75 characters of payment-related information out with this transaction. So maybe if you wanted to put an invoice number, you could do that, but you can always leave it blank. It's not a required box. And then I'm going to skip over the start date, send pre-note, and hold payment. And so once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and hit save. So say if you needed to add another person within here, you can always hit that save and add another, and it's just going to pop up a blank one for you. Since I don't need to add anyone else, I'm just going to hit that database summary. And then it's going to go back here. We're going to see our Joe Smith in here, and then I want to go back to the database list. Now you'll see our test for is out here. You'll see that generate is now a yes. So this has to do with the reoccurring transaction. So we know it's a yes generating recurring. And then right now it's a pending approval though. So with these transactions, we've got to approve these before they actually start to generate. In order to do that, all you need to do is select your database, go to modify database. Now this is where you actually created that database. But down at the bottom, you're going to see one that says approve now. So in order to approve that database, all you're going to do is select your approve. What you're going to do is you're going to enter your token in there. I'm going to go ahead and enter a code on this one. All right. So once you enter your PIN number from that or your token code, it's going to go to an active status instead of that pending approval. So now you know this database is active to pay on the 5th of every month to those vendors. Like I said, you don't want to change the amount on this. So reoccurring is not a good idea if it's something that you update every week or month. I recommend doing those as a one-off instead of reoccurring. Say if you do need to change the amount on reoccurring, you do have to take it off a reoccurring status, change the amount, and then put it back on reoccurring. So in order to just take it off reoccurring, all you need to do is go ahead and select this database, modify it, unselect auto-generate, auto-release, default frequency, just change back to none, hit done. And once you save that, you're going to see a pending approval again. So you just got to approve it that it went to, you're taking it off a reoccurring. So all you do is select your database, hit modify database, and just hit approve down here. Now the approve this time is not going to ask you for a token code, so all you have to do is hit approve, and then it will go back to an active status on here. Okay. So that is pretty much everything with the ACH portion of this. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move on to our wire transfers. Okay. So under wire transfers, it's going to bring you to our wire transaction list. Under the wire transaction list, say if you had any wires that were ready to go out, you would see them listed underneath here. You're going to see the release option here as well. So your token will be used along with the wire option as well. So in order to actually start a wire though, what you do is up top here you'll see transaction list, single wire. If you select that single wire, you're going to see non-repetitive Fed and non-repetitive Fed International. So if you're sending a domestic wire, you'll select the Fed, and if you're sending a national wire, you'll select this non-repetitive Fed International. So on the non-repetitive Fed, say if we went to this one first, you're going to see the basic wire template. So you're going to enter your amount here. The value date is the date you want the wire to go out. Now you can select this up to 30 days in advance as well. And then if you have multiple accounts up here, you would select under debit account, you'd be able to drop down that box and select what account you'd like to choose. Receiving bank ID, this will be the bank that it is going out to. So I'm just going to use Old National as an example. So if I enter Old National's routing number here, and I go ahead and I hit the three dots to the right hand side, it's going to pop up a little box here and come up with their Old National routing number. That way if you just select here, it goes ahead and fills out that information already for you. Now the next required field is that beneficiary account. So that's going to be the account number that you're paying to. We're just going to go ahead and do a test one here. Beneficiary name and address are not required fields. It's always helpful to enter that if you have that information though. So I'm just going to go ahead and enter a test. Reference for beneficiary and OBI, this is if you wanted to send any information along with that wire. Maybe if you had an invoice number, you could send that as well. So we're going to go ahead, I'm not going to enter anything in here, this is not a required field. In the BBI, that's bank-to-bank information, so you can always leave that blank in the requesting party account. You don't have to fill that information out. So as long as you have your required fields filled out, all you have to do is hit Q, and it's going to queue up my transaction. Now it brings me right back to add the wire. So if you're doing multiple wires and you want to release multiple wires at once, you can do that as well. I'm going to go up here real quick, back to my single wire, before we go back out to that transaction list and show you the non-repetitive Fed International. So it looks similar to that non-repetitive Fed. There's going to be a few different things with the international wires. So you'll enter your amount. The receiving bank ID, now we have another bank we go through for our international wires, Wells Fargo. So anytime that's with the receiving bank ID, that's going to be our Wells Fargo routing number. And if you want to write that down, I can give that to you. So for international wires, the routing number you'll use is 026005092. So the same here, you can enter that information. So that pulls up our Wells Fargo, it will import that information. And then from here, the intermediary bank ID. So you might have an ABA number, you might have a SWIFT code. Depending on what you have with that international wire, you can select from here. And then down here is where you'll put your beneficiary account number, beneficiary name or address, and then anything with the OBI, so if you had any payment information you want to send along with that, you can fill that out as well. So once you have all that information, you can go ahead and queue that. So once you have these transactions queued, you go back up to your transaction list, and you're going to see it out here. Now it's at an entered status, and you're going to see the value date of 4/17. So this is where you need to go ahead and release that wire. So once you go ahead and select your wire, you'd hit release, and then you do your token again where you enter your 4-digit PIN, get that 6-digit code. You'll enter that 6-digit code in the passcode box. From there, what it's going to do is it goes from an entered status to a release status, and then it does have to go through a process in order for it to, it has to go down to our wire room before it's officially released. Actually, I apologize. It goes from an entered status to the acknowledged status. So from there, once you'll know it's been released, after the wire room gets it, they will process that. If there's any revisions that need to be made, or if the wire room notices something wrong, you'll get a call from our business support team. They'll let you know, hey, we need to make this edit to the wire, and then we can go make any edits and really release that. So say if I realize this one I need to make an edit to myself and it's still in entered status, all I need to do is hit revise. And then you're going to notice it disappear from this transaction list. So right up here, so if I need to make a repair to it or revise it, it's going to appear under my wire repair. You're going to see the wire number there, and you're going to see the amount. If I just click on that amount, I can make any edits I need to. If I want to change that $1 to $5 instead, I hit Q. It's going to appear back out in my transaction list. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to delete this wire since I'm not sending anything out. So if I hit delete here, and up top you're also going to notice one called wire history. So say if you need to go back and look at any wire history, you can view that underneath the wires. Say also if you have someone that you are initiate a wire from frequently, one thing you can do is you can set up a wire template. So underneath, how to set up a wire template. On the left-hand side, you'll notice an option called Setup. So under Setup, you have a Formats and Templates. There's going to be one called Manage Wire Templates. So once you click on here, it's going to take you to Manage Wire Templates. So if you had existing wire templates out here, you could easily add one from here. You can manage that wire template. So if we click on Add Wire Template, there's going to be an application drop down. You're going to see repetitive fed, semi-repetitive fed. The difference between those is, say if a repetitive fed is only, say if you're paying someone frequently, it's only going to allow you to change the amount. It's not going to allow you to change any other information. Semi-repetitive fed, that will allow you to change the amount along with the OBI information, so any information that you're sending out along with that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to enter an example one. We're just going to go ahead and we're actually going to do repetitive, semi-repetitive fed. So it'll ask you to create a template ID, and it'll ask you to do a description as well. So I'm just going to enter test for both these since they're tests. We'll go ahead and enter our routing number here for Old National instead. And it'll be basically like that. When you're doing a single wire, it'll ask you for the same information. It'll ask you for a beneficiary account. So I'm just going to enter some ones there and do a test. And then OBI, I'm just going to enter a test there. So once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save. Okay. So now this will be listed under my wire templates as well. So if you needed to make any edits, you could click on the template ID, make any edits that way, or you can delete from here as well. In order to actually get to that template though, from that wire, if you want to select that, under the wire transfers option, under single wire, you're going to now see semi-repetitive fed is selected, or you can select that. So if you click on that, it's going to pull up, and it's going to go to this test one. If you have multiple templates underneath there, it'll allow you to select which template that you want to use. So like I said, it'll allow you to enter the amount, select the value date, and enter any OBI information. Like where I said repetitive will only allow you to do the amount and the value date instead. So also with wires is you do have a daily limit set up as well. So the daily limit was set for you. If you needed to do a wire increase, you could call into our business support line as well. They can do a temporary increase or look into getting a permanent increase if you find needing that more frequently. Also, cutoff time for wires is going to be 4 p.m. Central Time. So you make sure if you want to get a wire out that day, you'll have to make sure it's in before 4 p.m. Central Time to go out that day. That is everything with the wires. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move on to online statements. You'll see the online statements on this left-hand side. When you pull this up the first time, it's going to take you through a little acknowledgement status. Now, I've already gone through the acknowledgement status, so it's going to bring me to our statement page, if it pulls up here. I apologize, it's taking just a second. Okay, so when you do the acknowledgement, it's going to ask you for a confirmation code. It's going to give you a little PDF document. At the bottom of the PDF document, once you go through there, you'll have that confirmation code. You'll enter that code. And then on the next page, it's going to ask you to enter an email address. That way you get notifications when the statement is available. Now, the email address is optional, so if you don't want to enter your email address or get notifications, you do not have to set that up. But once you go through that process, it's going to take you to this page. You're going to see both of your accounts here, and you're going to see that you have e-statements available for. So if I go ahead and I click on this e-statements, it's going to pull up the latest e-statement. Now, you're going to see the last e-statements for the last 18 months on here as well. So right now, if I wanted to go ahead and I wanted to choose a different month a few months back, I can pull up that statement, view that. You can always print it for yourself if you needed to, so it pulls up typically in a PDF document. Always save it, print it. But that's everything with the online statements. Like I said, it's optional if you want to get a notification for it. You can always skip that part. Okay. And statements are usually typically available on the second business day of the month. So that's everything with the online statements feature. I'm going to go ahead and go into a few things, especially with our alerts option, and then I'm going to go into how to add a user. So in order to set up an alert, alerts can be available for Positive Pay, ACH. There's just a couple different options, and I'll show you those. So, I apologize, I went too quickly. So under Setup, if you go to User Preferences, you're going to see one called Add an Alert. There's also Manage Alert or Configure My Contact Points. But if you just want to add an alert in the beginning, there's Alert Type, and then you're going to see some different options. There's ACH Balanced Intraday and ACH Batch Intraday and ACH Batch Summary. Intraday ACH, that will give you, say if you had an ACH out there and entered status and it hasn't been released yet, it will give you an alert throughout the day every couple hours saying, hey, you have one of these at entered status. If you need to release it, go release it. And then summary will just be at the end of day. There's one for balance threshold, so if your balance for a certain account falls below a certain amount, you can get an alert for that. Checks cleared. Exceptions exist. Now this one is for Positive Pay. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to talk about this one just for a second. So when you select the exceptions exist underneath here, it's going to ask you to name the alert. That's an optional field, so if you didn't want to name the alert, you can. But then it's also going to ask you to receive as internet email. So when I select my internet email, I already have some contacts set up down here. Otherwise, it's going to typically be blank, and you can enter the contacts you need to receive those emails. So, like I said, I had this alert set up for these emails already, but if I was going ahead and set up that alert again, all you're going to do is enter the emails, make sure the check mark is next to it, and hit Save Alert Info, and that's going to save that alert. Say if you have an alert that's already out there and you needed to make an edit to it, all you have to do is go to Manage My Alerts. You can see I have these options already at an active status. So if I wanted to, I could always delete this alert out of there. That will delete the alert. That way no one receives emails on that. I could go inside the alert and edit my alert information. So if I didn't want a couple people to actually receive that alert, I could change that. And then I can also edit my, I can change the status to inactive if I want it to go inactive for a little bit instead of deleting it. Because you can change it from inactive, and then you can go back to an active status when you're ready to start receiving alerts again. I'm going to go ahead and save my changes on there. And then, so that's everything with alerts. We do have an alerts guide out here as well on the TMIC website. So if you're interested in learning more about everything with alerts and how they work, under the BankConnect, there's a guide to alerts, so that will teach you, that will show you what exactly each alert does. Another thing with this under the setup option, you're also going to see change my password. So if you ever need to change your password, dashboard preferences, that is your home page. So if you ever want to change the format of your home page or not see a certain, like if you didn't want to see bank or system messages, you can change that as well. Audit, that's if you wanted to audit any activity that you or another user has done as well. Under Advanced Administration, you're going to see some different options. There's Manage User, View Holidays on which services do not process, View Customer Settings, and Modify Account Names. I'm going to go over Manage Users in just a moment, but View Holidays on which services do not process, those will take you to our holiday calendar. From here, you can see which days our ACHs do not and our wires do not process on, what days we're closed. Modify account name. So say if I wanted to change the account name on my front home page where I see my dashboard, you can change that name. Instead of checking account, I could name it Business Account 1 or however you need it to. And then when you save it, it's going to reflect on your front home page with that new account name. And then under Manage Users, so under Manage Users, say if you are an admin and you want to go ahead and add a new user out here, you have you have an option to do that. Right now, you'll see all the users that have access to this BankConnect underneath here. So you'll see myself and a couple other users, but up top, of course, there in the middle in gray, you'll see Add User. So if I want to add a new user, I can go ahead and I can do that. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take you through the process of adding a new user. So you'll see the organization ID is already filled out to iDemo, so it will be what your organization ID is, and then you'll create a username for them. Typically, we default to first name over here, but you do have the option to use whatever you like. I'm just going to go ahead and name this one Train. So you'll fill in first name, last name, and then you'll create a temporary password for them as well. Now, the temporary password does have to be at least 8 characters and contain one number in there, but it can be all lowercase. And it is case sensitive. You're going to see activation date. So this is the date you want it to activate on. Maybe you don't want it to activate today. Maybe you want it to activate, be available in 2 weeks. You could select that out as well. Then you're also going to see deactivation date. So if that is when someone leaves the company as admin, you have the access to deactivate them on that date or whatever date. That way they don't have access to get back in the BankConnect system. So if you're just creating a user, just leave it blank, hit Save Basic Info. So underneath here, you're going to see some boxes populate. So underneath the first one is administration permissions. You're going to see some different roles here. Typically for a user that's not an admin, we always give dashboard. Dashboard is that front home page along with payments. This has to tie into our ACH and our wire payment system. So we always recommend selecting those. And then there's some other options you can select underneath here as well. If you wanted to give them audit permissions, you can do that. And then modify account name, if you want to give them access to modify those account names, you can. And then under setup customer user, this is where the admin has all this access. It's up to you if you want to give them that access, where they can add other users, edit user permissions. View existing user permissions is what we're really editing user permissions right now, but this would give them view access to this page. Clear users who are locked out, and then also change user passwords. If you want to give them access to that, you can, but it's not a requirement. Just make sure that these two are selected. Once you have that saved, you'll go through a few more boxes to give them exactly what permissions you want. Like if you didn't want them to have permissions to do positive pay or ACH, you don't have to give them that access. The first box is account activity and stop payments. So this gives them the access to view any activity on the account Like on the dashboard screen, when we clicked on our account, it gave us the account activity. If you didn't want them to view that access, you wouldn't have to give them this page. There's also stop payments permissions, and there's also monitor underneath here. So if you want to give them all that access, you could always just hit all and save, and it'll give them all that access. Transfer permissions. This will give them the ability to transfer either from a checking account, savings, or do loan transfers as well. So you could have them add a transfer, edit a transfer, delete transfers, view transfers. So if you want to give them all that access, you can select all, save, or you can limit it. Now, positive pay permissions. With this one, you can break this down as well, but if you don't want them to have access on positive pay, you can skip over this tab. But if you just select all, this will give them access to upload a file, approve that file, monitor exceptions, and decision exceptions as well. So underneath here, you're going to see under, like say if you didn't want someone to be able to approve it, you wanted to have them upload the file, but you want someone else approving. You could take this approval off, then they would be able to not approve it. Someone else would have to go in their approval. So it can be dual control. But once you have all that, you can select save. Balance inquiry permissions. This gives them access to the balance page, but it also ties into our online statements. So if a user has online statements, you want to make sure this balance inquiry is selected. But this will also give them access to view the balances up there. Alert permissions. If you wanted to give them access to set up those alerts, you can do that. You can give them access to certain alerts as well. But you always want to make sure you have the internet email checked, just because they can select who receives that email as well. They can go in and edit that. Online statements. So once you have your online statement selected, you'll hit save underneath here. Online statements is a couple-step part, because you also have to select under check services account assignment. There's going to be a box called balance inquiry. So say if you didn't want them to get online statements for certain accounts, you can limit that. Maybe you only want them to get online statements for that account. You can save that, and they only get online statements for that account. I'm going to skip back up to here. Under ACH permissions, under payment types, so it's going to bring you to the payment types page. You're going to see full ACH. So you want them to have full ACH access, so you're going to select that. And then you're going to see your two ACH accounts here, and these are typically, we default to the last three of the account number. So you'll see different options here. You'll see consumer debits, corporate collections, payroll. So if you want to give them access to all of those, you could. If you only want them to be able to do payroll from an account, you could do that as well. Just note, so if they only have payroll for this account selected, but you have a database for corporate collections out there, they will not see that database out on the database list. They will only see anything that's related to payroll for that 541 account that's in the databases. So from here, there's also a second tab under limits and permissions. You're going to see up top here, you're going to see amount limits, single transaction, batch creation, batch release, and daily release. So typically, a lot of times people leave this first database blank. You can limit their daily release amount. So like I said earlier, you all have a maximum daily release. If you wanted them to only to be able to, say if your daily release was 100,000, but a single transaction you only wanted them to be able to do 20,000, you could do that. You can limit that. Batch creation, you could put a number in that. Batch release, you could set a number. And then daily release, so if 100,000, you only wanted to be able to release 50,000 a day, you could set that up as well. So as admin, you have access to edit this at any point in time. So you can always change those if you decide it needs to be higher or lower at any point. Also underneath here, under database permissions, you're going to see where it says add, delete, create, batch, approve, import, and then edit, view. So with add, delete, this is if for them gives them access to add and delete a database. Create batch, this is where if you want to, this will give them access to create a batch from that database. Approve option will give them the functionality to, when you have a database set up as a reoccurring, remember you have to approve that database. So that will give them access to approve the database. Import will give them option to import a file. And then under edit and view, There's one called Edit Summary in Detail. So this will give them the option to edit the summary, edit anything within inside that database as well. So if you want to then be able to edit the amounts or edit any information within the database, you need to make sure the Edit Summary in Detail is selected. Under Transaction Permissions, you're going to notice a couple different options. You're going to see Release, Delete, and Report. So Release will give them access to release a batch. Delete will give them access to delete a batch off that batch list, and the report will give them access to view that report. So like I said, the 90-day report out there that's created after when you submit a batch, that will give them access to view that report. If you don't want them to have release capability, you can give them everything else. That way, if you kind of want to have it under dual control where someone can't release, you can set that up. But once you have everything selected, all you have to do is hit Save. And I have it actually, we have a daily amount selected, so it's over my daily limit, so I've got to change that. So it'll give you an error out if you selected over the daily release limit. Now once you have everything saved with that, you can go down to Wire Permissions. Under Wire Permissions, you'll see Set Up Wire Templates. And so if you want to give them access to set up wire templates, if you want to put a cap on their maximum daily release, like I said, you all have a daily release limit with that. So you just got to make sure it's under that daily release if you want to give them a cap. And then you'll also see non-repetitive fed, non-repetitive, repetitive, and semi-repetitive. So if you only wanted them to be able to do domestic wires and non-repetitive, all you have to do is select these, and it will only give them access to do those wires. But you can always select all of these. And like I said, you can limit it down to where they can only enter or revise, they can release. So you have those options. Under reporting permissions, you'll see underneath here, you'll see your reports like the account statement, balance summary, cleared checks, combined, and loan statements are all the ones I have too. So if you only wanted to give them access to certain account statement, if you only wanted to be able to see that, you could select that. Then if you wanted them to have access to the NOC and OR letters, which is for that ACH. So if you wanted them to get access to that, select that and hit Save. Clicked a little too soon. And then Payments and Reporting Accounts. So underneath here, under Payments and Reporting Accounts, this has to do with our account and the account level with those reports. So you selected the reports here, but if you didn't want them to have access to the reports for a certain account, you wouldn't have to give it to them. But if you just click Standard, they'll have access to those reports. And also this has to do with wires. So any account that you have wire transfer set up for, you'll give them access on this page. So once you save that, and then it will take you down to the Check Services Account Assignment. So on this Check Services Account Assignment, you're going to see your accounts listed here. You'll see this account. The second one has to do with positive pay for the, like I said, with the Anchor Bank routing number. So if you wanted to give them access to account transfers on here, balance inquiry, like I said, has to do with online statements. Check has to do with viewing the activity on the account and checks. And then dashboard gives them that dashboard view on that front page. So exception permissions and manual maintenance, this has to do with our positive pay feature. So if you had multiple accounts on positive pay, but you only want to give them positive pay on this account, you'll just want to make sure those are checked, because that will give them access. The maintenance will give them access to upload a file, and exception permissions will give them access to decision those exceptions on there. So once you're ready, once you select those accounts, you can limit that, but if you want to select all on page, all you do is hit Save. Now everything is selected for that user. So once they log in, they will be able to see whatever access you gave to them as well on here. So that is really everything with our BankConnect system. This will conclude our BankConnect training. Please do not hesitate to contact your Treasury Management Sales Officer or call the Old National Treasury Management Support Line. Our number there is 800-844-1720, option 1, which you can also find at the top of that business support, or on the BankConnect page. You'll see our business support number up there in our hours. Or you can email any training-related questions to bcpquestions@oldnational.com. Reminder that important information will continue continue to be added to the Anchor Bank Conversion Resource Center located at www.oldnational.com/anchortm. Thank you for your time, and you have a great day.